Okay, there we go. Test, test.
Are you gonna leave that open?
I don't know.
Go on, dude. It'll make it easier. Let me turn that off for a sec.
Test, test, cool. Test, test.
Buddy, in the back, can you hear me okay? I get sound good? Awesome. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you here for day 3 of Summit. Hope you loved the presentations this morning. I thought they were really, really good. Especially liked the unsung heroes from the Chili's presentation. I thought that was awesome. So just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started today. And before that, my name's Joe Durfee. I'm responsible for partnerships and channel at Grow, and we're so happy that you're here with us today. A couple housekeeping items. We have a booth set up for you to leave reviews for G2 Crowd and Capterra. If you have a minute and you use Grow, stop by and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. You can get a raffle ticket. We're giving away some really cool prizes. There's also a referral booth if you work with a company or you know somebody that should be taking a look at Grow. If you leave a referral, we're giving away some really cool swag over there, so you can leave with some great Grow swag from this event. And there's also a booth where you can leave feedback about this event specifically. So, we're so thrilled to have you all here with us today, and we would love to get your feedback and know how we can make it even better for next year. So feel free to stop by and leave that feedback. That booth is we're just doing that during the lunch hour, so it will be after this presentation. It will be outside of Primrose A, and in exchange for leaving some feedback, we're giving away, or we're doing free professional headshots. So, if you like, you're bald or you're gray hair like me, and your last headshot like you had a full head of hair and it's time to update it, you can do that for free over there. So, I can do that because I'm talking about myself, Yeah, that's right. That's right. Let's see, and I think that's it for the housekeeping. So really, really excited about our presentation this morning. We have Ryan Voorhees, who is the VP of Operations at Grow, and Rob Nelson, who is the founder and CEO at Grow. This is a really fun one for me. I want to say just a couple words about each of these guys. I worked with Ryan Voorhees at a previous company called Security Metrics, and I was kind of leading a sales team, and there was this young kid that was just going through college that started to get a reputation of just the spreadsheet wizard. And we had every executive person on our team at Grow that would run to this guy every time we needed, some insight from the data, and like that, he would whip it up. And with any software, with any spreadsheet, he's just a wizard, and it's been so fun to see him grow into becoming the VP of Operations at Grow, and we've worked together for 10 years now, Ryan? It's been quite a while. And a lot of you know Rob. Rob's a serial entrepreneur. This is his second company. He founded and had an exit from a company previous to this in the logistics space, and I'm not saying this because he's sitting here, but Rob is such an awesome CEO to work for. He's the classic example of empowering his people and giving them space to create and to fail and to learn and to grow. And I believe that he's been able to build what he has with Grow because of the way that he empowers people. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Ryan and Rob, and please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Can you hear my mic? There we go.
Check, check. Okay.
So, a couple of things. One, we need a new headshot for Ryan right here.
It's the worst picture ever. It's all right.
I don't know how we pulled that one, but
I'll get it done after this. So
this is going to be fairly casual. We had quite a bit of feedback from last summit about customers saying, "Hey, we want to hear more about how Grow uses Grow, and some more insight about how we look at things and what we do internally." So we've had a couple of sessions. This is one of them. And this is going to be very tactical. This is what's on my dashboard that I look at. We're going to go through the process of how we've created and built that, what exactly that's on, and then how we share and what we share out to the team. So I think it'll be helpful. I'm excited about it. Maybe as I can introduce Ryan a little bit. Ryan was our very first client success hire. And before we hired Ryan, we launched some software and you know, it was so technical, and like we added SQL to it, and we just kind of expected our clients to do it. And it was just a lot of work, and Ryan came in and helped clients get to a successful outcome, and that's when the company really took off. And I joke with Ryan a lot and say, Ryan, if you ever leave Grow, we just put a padlock on the doors and just walk away from the whole thing. Ryan's been instrumental in what we've done and what we've built, and he's so good with data, so good with our customers, and we're really lucky to have a Ryan Voorhees. Everybody needs a Ryan Voorhees in their company.
Thanks, Rob.
But Ryan's kind of emerged through this whole process as like the keeper of the keys of the kingdom at Grow with all of our data. And so anything that is kind of data related goes through Ryan. He's the main artery of the company and controls the flow of all the data. So that's a little bit of an introduction here. Let's see. Why don't we get into a couple of disclaimers? And by the way, we're going to leave quite a bit of time for just open Q&A and ask questions, and we'll riff together on some of these things. So some disclaimers. These are our actual metrics. We took a screenshot. We snapshotted our dashboard, and then we replicated it. And then obviously it's not our actual data, so we went through and made fictitious data, but it is our actual metrics. I've changed some of the names of the metrics, the tiles, just so that it's a little more, it's less jargony and a little more familiar with everybody. So not all will apply. That's the other disclaimers. Even if you have a SaaS company, not all will apply, but this is what we call R&D, like rip off and duplicate. So feel free to take anything out of here and run with it in your company if it will be helpful, and I hope it will be. Okay, so let's talk about the process. Do you want to start with maybe just how we've come about and the iteration that we've gone through in the CEO dashboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So our CEO dashboard has changes literally every quarter, if not every month. One of the best experiences at Grow, working with Rob, is actually like sitting down for several hours. We'll block out an afternoon and kind of just riff on like looking at our customer data, for instance, and just having Rob ask questions, me providing answers, and a lot of this is just kind of just going through the process of what are our quarterly objectives, what are we focused on, what are the insights we need to get, and then against plan and goal.
And about once a month, I come in and say, like, Ryan, I need you for like 3 or 4 hours. And that's kind of the cadence that we go through, and we sit down and like, I just drill him with questions. Like, I want to know this. And Ryan's so good that we can do this in like real time, and he's answering and pulling the data.
Yeah, and what we found, like, let's say we were able to answer like half of them, and there's a lot of times like we don't have the data that we need to answer, and so it also provides like an action list for me to go back to like the ops team, the sales and marketing leaders, and actually either recreate that data or set up an infrastructure to track. So we're able to answer a lot of questions in real time, and then we're able to get an action list of really important items we need to figure out.
Yeah, an example of this would be like customer data. I come in and ask a lot of questions around data around our customers, and it's like, okay, Ryan, I want to see a breakdown, and it may start with like, I want to see a breakdown of every customer who's purchased Grow in the last 6 months, and break that down for me by employee size of those companies. And so, he'll run that, and we'll build it in Excel and look at it, and then I'll start to segment that and say, okay, now pick out, companies between 20 and 300, for example, and then let's look at like price points broken out within those ranges of employee sizes that they purchased. And then let's go deeper and look at like NPS scores based on employee size, or industry based on employee size, or industry based on price point. And I tend to go down a lot of different rabbit holes as we go through this process.
Yeah, and keep in mind, to speak to the power of Grow, like I don't do Excel reports at all. But what we do is we use Excel to do the data discovery to really just find the insights that we need. in combination with other Grow dashboards and things we have set up. And once we go down these rabbit holes, as you'd say, and really find the deep, meaningful metrics to drive our business, that's where we'll go through and then implement those and get them automated.
Yeah, that's right. So if it's like, okay, that's what I want to see moving forward, then Ryan will spin that up into Grow, and I can see that on my dashboard, up to the minute. So that's a routine and process that we go through, and we do that about once a month. Ryan mentioned that our CEO dashboard, we do probably a major overhaul on it about once a year, but there's tweaks about once a quarter. And there's maybe changes to metrics or updates or changes to the logic that we have about once a month to refine it. Now, this is been an iterative process. We didn't start out with the metrics that we're tracking now. I think we started out with okay, we have a basic budget. Let's take what we're budgeting and pull the actuals in against the budget, and we started with that, right? Revenue, expenses, net income, deals, marketing activities, and that's where we started, and then we've just iterated. So the other disclaimer on this is this isn't, we'll continue to refine this. And this isn't everything I look at. So we have other dashboards that I plow through, and for example, we have an NPS dashboard, and the NPS score, Net Promoter Score, is segmented out by all these different conditions like industry or employee size, or are they building in Grow, or are they just a user or a viewer in Grow, those kinds of things. Okay, and then before we jump into the dashboard snapshot and the layout of what we look at, let's just go through a couple of best practices that we've refined over time. And I covered this in boot camp if you were in boot camp. Was anyone not in boot camp? Or show of hands? Okay, so about half. So I'll kind of go through at twice the speed then. So there's 5 areas on this. The first one is we start with a question that helps kind of avoid the vanity metrics. This one is really important, is this key value. And the idea behind this is I like to see the progress. I like to see that changing during the day. Financial metrics, when they only update, if they're based on the P&L or the balance sheet, they only update once a month when the accountant closes out the books. It's just a lot less impactful. It's helpful, but it's less impactful than something that's changing throughout the day. And then we always have a key value, meaning I want to see where I'm at today, but I also need to know where I was yesterday or the week prior, whatever period I need to compare that to.
An example of this, we're 3 days into the month. So, comparing sales for your first 3 days versus the entire 30 days of last month typically isn't going to work, and we're always going to look like, we're behind at the start. And so measuring to your goal of where you should be at within that day is, whether it's your goal or whether it was what was your sales last month at the same time period or even both, that helps us drive and know, are we doing better or worse than the comparison period?
That's right. So our month to date, and I look at a lot of things month to date, we're comparing October 1 through the 3rd versus September 1 through the 3rd. And then if we are forecasting and have built a model or a plan or a budget based on this data that I'm tracking, then we're showing what % are we to forecast. And we do the same thing. So Ryan builds in logic to say, hey, we're at the 3rd. We're on, it's the 3rd today. Where should we be at according to forecast if you divide it by the number of days in the month?
Sorry, quick question on forecasts.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Is it done a lot outside of just displayed in here, or is it actually integrated into Grow also?
So our forecasting is very simple on how we use Grow. So we have a finance team. They model everything out and they get the numbers. But for us in Grow, I take that data. I use a Google spreadsheet, and it's super simple and it's easy to maintain. And we're tracking at most 20 metrics on the dashboard, and probably 3/4 of them have actual forecast data we need to measure to. And for us, we pull live from the system, so we'll pull live from Salesforce or our billing software, But actual like forecast data, we use Google Sheets and plug it in.
Yeah, we take a summary of the plan, drop it into Google Sheets. We've seen customers take their actual budget, drop it in, and just overlay the charts to get an idea. And then what period am I looking at? Usually I'm looking at everything month over month on our dashboard time frame, unless it's marketing that's more transactional, and then I'm looking at it week over week. Okay, so here's a screenshot of our CEO dashboard. This is what I look at, 10 times a day. And what we did is we took that and published it through our shareable link and dropped it on here. So you can jump on there and you can scroll through the metrics and you get a feel for that and play around with the data a little bit. Again, this is not our actual data, so whether
Disclaimer.
we're higher or lower, it's fictitious data that we threw in there.
Exactly what we track, though. It's an exact copy. So.
Okay, so now let's break down the rows and how I've structured the dashboard, because it's not just metrics thrown in there at random. What's the most important thing CEOs care about? Revenue, right? Sales, what's happening with revenue. So this is all of our sales and revenue activities up top. I'm going to go through each of these categories, and then we'll come back to them and talk about the specific metrics that we have for each. So revenue activity, marketing activity. In other words, what's driving revenue? What activities are we doing that's driving revenue? What are our revenue detractors? Customer cancellations, churn, metrics like that. And then this is kind of my miscellaneous row, whether it's financials, certain unit economic metrics that we track, or like a brand promise metric. Like, hey, we want to have customers get to a sales and marketing dashboard on TVs in front of their team. Like what percentage of our customers who've just recently signed up, how many have gotten to that outcome? That's the kind of brand promise metric that I think is a good idea to put on there. Okay, so coming back to revenue activity, here are the specific metrics that we have. Revenue to plan. So top left metric is like always the most important thing. This is what kind of rallying behind. So revenue versus plan. And you see the gray dotted lines, that's our forecast. And then you can see, and some of these key values in order to just get the real estate on this laptop for the presentation, the snapshot, I had to we shrink these tiles really small, so it's missing some stuff. But if you were to click on a tile and it goes full screen, you'd see that it has the comparison period and a percent to plan that we're tracking. Okay, so we've got revenue versus plan, new sales revenue versus plan, meaning, how much new revenue did we close that month versus the plan. New clients, like number of new logos versus the plan. New sales collected in cash versus the plan. And month-to-date sales by rep. And this probably isn't the most sophisticated thing, but I have a reminder that pops up the last day of the month for me just to make sure I go through the sales by rep performance and our leaderboard that's on the top right metric, and then I give the team shout outs, and I'm kicking off Slack messages with screenshots and memes or little gifs of crazy stuff for our top people, and just giving praise where praise is due, and giving shout outs to these people, whether it's the last day of the month or during the month when I'm seeing reps make good progress. Okay, the next row is marketing activities. So anything that's driving revenue. So you could see total leads by channel. And then we look at MQLs. MQLs are marketing qualified leads. So leads are anyone that comes in and raises their hand, and then you've got a marketing qualified lead, meaning it's not
It's like a content download.
Yeah,
or-
it's not like an old grandma that like doesn't have a business that
Yep.
clicked on the wrong form or something like that. And so MQLs versus the plan, new sales opportunities created versus the plan.
And sales opportunities created would be like someone after they have a demo and we're moving forward in the proposal process.
And then I've got kind of a stacked column. You see this. It shows week over week of our whole sales funnel. And I like expand that and kind of play around and look at that and explore it a little bit to look at like, okay, how many deals week over week are we doing? How many sales opportunities are we doing week over week? And this gives me just kind of a high-level overview of some of these other granular metrics, and then looking at closed deals based on channel that they come from. We have 5 channels, and let me see if I can rattle these off. We have obviously like a paid channel that come from Google or Facebook ads, something like that. We have a partner channel that Joe drives, who's up here.
Organic.
We have
Organic.
that just come to our site organically, word of mouth or SEO, something like that. Or that's inbound, I guess. An
Yeah.
inbound channel, and then
Like sales generated.
an outbound channel, where our reps are reaching out cold, either through LinkedIn or something like that. So those are the 5 channels so that I can see our activity and deals closed based on those channels. And if you have burning questions now, it's okay. And we can address these as we're in the sections. Okay, now revenue detractor metrics. These are things like trial conversion rates. So if we open up the app to people to try out before they buy, what are our conversion rates? And we look at it instead of a successful conversion rate, meaning we look at like how many fall out and choose not to purchase. That's, and then we're looking at like churn or customer cancellations broken out on a dollar amount as a percent per month. And I think just in general, it's kind of a weird concept, but that's typically how like SaaS operates. These software companies, as you break it down as a percent per month. And then you look at like what we have figured out, like breaking out total churn or total customer cancellations versus those that we care about. And as you go into new markets, or like we did, we took this massive bite out of the market and then figured out like we're so new as a company, we landed a bunch of customers that shouldn't really be customers. And I kind of joked that like, the sales team, they closed, it was like a solopreneur woman in Miami who dresses up as a princess, as Cinderella, and goes to kids' parties. And, we landed her for like $600 a month with dashboard software. We shouldn't have closed that. That was early on where the reps were just closing anyone with a credit card. So there's, my point is that there's customer cancellations. That's not a bad thing. And we're splitting that out to say, hey, there's cancellations we're okay with that, and other cancellations that we're not okay with that. So we're tracking both of those separately. That's unique to maybe our business, but
You guys tag that in like your CRM?
We do.
How you track it?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I
And
wonder what tag we have.
if you're here, it's a good tag. So we look at things like what integrations, like if the CEO doesn't roll over in bed in the morning and check their phone and see like how many GitHub tasks were completed or checked in last night. It's all about kind of what's driving revenue. And so there's certain integrations that play to that, right? And if they've only connected like a weird kind of project management application, they're not getting the full value of Grow. And so we want to help get some other integrations added before we tag them as like, hey, that's the right type of customer.
And it gives our customer success team an opportunity to like, if there are customers who are not our target, chances are they really can be, and that's our focus is to help bring them in to get to an outcome like this.
Okay, and then we look at like year one cohort retention, meaning like at year one, the 12-month mark, how many customers are renewing with Grow versus choosing not to renew. And then we look at the churn or cancellations broken down by region. And we have like 15% of our customers that are overseas, that are international. We set up a London office about a year and a half ago. And so we put more emphasis on this, and we started to put more emphasis on that about 18 months ago. Yes?
Of these, Ryan, maybe, or either one, but of these, how many of them actually come straight from some software package or a little more difficult to navigate? You kind of answered a little bit of the tagging stuff, but I guess I'm trying to get an idea of, sometimes I just want, if I can't just get it straight through one of the data sets or whatever, I don't have anybody to hit it or whatever, so I'm wondering how much, and this is a question for us, but how much time you spend on this stuff for Rob and the CEO dashboard, collecting and massaging data to get it ready so that it can be put into Grow.
That's a great question. So this dashboard, I can say, is 100% automated. There's no manual work that goes involved with this dashboard. Maybe a little for like a little setup at the beginning of the month for a couple things, but it's automated. Part of the jam sessions that Rob and I will go through, these data jam sessions, is determining, that was a question that came up about target customer and about other things. And so a lot of times there's just specific action items that we need to take back to our team to determine how are we going to identify these, how can we backfill our existing system. So we're a big Salesforce user, and then leveraging its internal controls and operations to ensure that if we backfill it manually, moving forward, we have systems in place to ensure that these get updated. So if that makes sense. So it's an iterative process between Rob and I. It's an iterative process between our actual systems and the teams that we work with. And and if something is extremely important for us to track, we'll throw a leaderboard up, and help drive that behavior to either push the number up or even get it to 0 in some cases.
And there's certain customer analytics that we want to see pulled out of our own app and put into the customer account record in Salesforce so that we have that single source of truth. And we run into situations where we don't have it, and we've got to set it up, and it's like, okay, that's by the time we can get through the current sprint on the engineering side, it's maybe 3 weeks by the time it gets in. And that is we like everything kind of piped into Salesforce, central source of truth, and we can go through it pretty quick, but it doesn't need to be that way.
And that's actually where we use our data sets heavily, is for region and for some of these other things, we didn't have that before. And so we go through the process of slicing our customer base, and then we add that to these various data sets that we can use to power everything.
Yes?
From a senior executive perspective, other than the key value indicator, which is the one clear sort of red light, green light, binary, something's performing above or below expectations, are there any other warning signs or indicators that you guys have figured out to utilize to be more responsive, right? So one example, conditional formatting logic, which obviously is developed in Excel, not here. But are there any other ways to be able to sort of, flash out lagging engagement performances or exceeding engagement performances?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as the visualization, we've had some people on the CS side do some really cool things. So we are looking at a few things, but it's kind of hacked, where if a rep on the sales leaderboard has hit their quota for the month, it goes from gray to a green bar. And I can see that. And so there's some tricks and things that, at the data bar, you can go over and ask them to do. But we've had some good feedback around that with the product to make it easier and to build some conditional formatting in the visualizations, in the builder. And I really like that concept, so we're going to be looking at that. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes. Let me kind of go through, and I'll go fairly quickly, and then we'll open it up to more questions. So financials, unit economics, brand promise, average deal size, net new, revenue bookings, collected revenue versus planned net income, percent of annual payments versus monthly payments. We look at kind of the payment breakdown. Now, let's just fly through kind of the process and cadence of how we share the data and what we communicate out across the company. You want to talk through maybe what we do
Yeah.
in the office and as a team?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's certain metrics that that we need to share widely with the team, and others, need to keep a little bit more sensitive, right? And so, what we do is we have a command center in our office, 6 big TVs with like our sales metrics and
Center of the office
Center.
where we have all hands, big command center.
Yep. And then every department has their own TV, whether it's a TV or monitor. And just as a show of hands, who in this room has Grow data on it? Who in this room does not have Grow data on a TV screen? Okay, it's a couple of you. I challenge all of you to go talk to our CS team. It is getting Grow data on a TV screen. It's a very simple process. You can even do it with a computer monitor you have. Talk to our CS team, and we'll provide a solution for you to be able to get that up. So,
Yeah. So TVs, everybody's got it. The leadership team, my expectation of members of the leadership team is they follow the CEO dashboard. It's more kind of treated as an executive dashboard. They know what's happening. We have a 90-minute meeting every Monday morning. Mondays are sacred. We block that off. Everybody's there Monday. Nobody travels on Monday. And we review, and like anything that comes out of these metrics, I just expect the team to kind of know what's happening on the dashboard, and this becomes a discussion item in those 90-minute strategic meetings. Okay, investors, obviously I push out a link to our dashboard that the investors see that exact same dashboard, they follow along. And we've talked about this as a board, and the expectation is that the board members come to the board meeting already familiar with the metrics and the dashboards, and we're spending less time reviewing and recounting numbers and looking at like strategic issues and challenges that we're up against instead of looking at the data. Okay, then we do one-on-ones, and every member of the leadership team that reports to me like owns a few of these metrics on the dashboard. We've got it boiled down to like the most important metric or the 2 most important metrics, and we review those together on our weekly one-on-ones, and that's just my cadence. So we've talked about the process, best practices, the design flow of the dashboard and specific metrics, and then the application and how we share that across the team. So before we wrap up, let's open it up to any other questions.
And I'm going to jump up here real quick. We've got lunch next, so we've got a few minutes, but let's just take 3 to 5 minutes, maybe a couple questions. And then if you don't get your question answered, I'm sure Rob and Ryan will be happy to talk to you afterwards.
absolutely.
Yes.
We were hearing Lisa on the previous conference, and she said we should be looking at customers, employees, innovation, big 3 topics. Is that different dashboards you look at, or how does that show up?
Yeah, I think it depends on, so we have metrics that cover those. I think it depends on how you like to see it and the priorities for the year or the quarter, and the type of company that you are. We're a VC-backed tech company, and so growth is a big part of like our strategy and initiative, and that's why like it really kind of owns and rules the dashboard. If it's more financial, profit-driven for the space or the industry or the business that you have, then that's what's going to take over the dashboard. But yeah, we do have metrics that span other dashboards. I look at other dashboards on a regular basis. Yes, CJ.
Can you think of any examples, you get these jam sessions or the quarterly meetings, like examples of changes that you've made recently and why? Just curious to like, hey, this metric's not working anymore, or let's swap it out. Anything
Yeah.
come to mind?
Yes, so that happens quite a bit. We'll look at something and it's like, I just realized I don't really care much about that. And we kick it off the board, and we'll save that and put it over in somewhere else that I can reference later. An example of this is that bottom row becomes kind of special projects too. And so, we do like a quarterly offsite with the team, and we plan the next quarter and get clear on like our goals and objectives. And then of course, like we're looking at how do we track the progress of those goals and objectives. And can we quantitatively like measure that in a metric and build it and grow? And when we can, I drop that on the dashboard. So that's an example of what happens quarterly. Yeah.
So in terms of refresh rates, do you guys have a preferred refresh rate that you utilize for your dashboard? And related to that, you guys considered creating like a dashboard-based refresh rather than a metric-based refresh in case you want it all in the same schedule?
Yeah, great. So all of our metrics are 5-minute refresh rates. We use Salesforce. You know, from a technical side, we kind of boil it down to not hurt the API as we pull it. But everything on our side is a 5-minute refresh. As far as the dashboard refresh goes, absolutely, that's something that we talk about. We like that concept as well, and it's something that we definitely look into.
Yeah, instead of a dashboard level refresh, what we're moving towards is a data set level refresh. So the data set will refresh every 5 minutes and then update all of those metrics simultaneously.
That's a great point.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you guys found a TV that has a web browser built into it that will work with Grow that you guys are using? I've tried a couple different TVs and I haven't been able to find a browser. I always have to connect a computer to it.
So here's this. It's a great comment. Here's the solution. It's called a Chromebit. You can find it on Amazon. Less than $100. Yeah, I think it's like $80. And it's a mini computer that powers Chrome. That's an HDMI port, and so you don't have to like connect a computer. You don't even have to use a Chromecast. You just plug it in, get like a little wireless keyboard, and that'll power it. And then we have an extension in the Chrome App Store to keep it alive, and it'll override the TV settings from like shutting off. Yeah, it's a Chrome extension. Talk to our CS team or come talk to me. I'll give you the links as well. But it's a really simple solution. You don't have to use a computer for it. So
We'll take one more if there's one more burning question that somebody has.
Any suggestions for an office for sharing the metrics where providing them on a TV does not work because you don't have open workspaces? Everybody is in an office and there isn't a common area really, so it's for people to look at the metrics, they're required to log in and look at them on their own screen. Suggestions for encouraging them to do that?
yeah, so two suggestions. One, you could use scheduled PDF reports to email out to your team. That's very true. I guess my other one is open. Look at it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think utilizing meetings for a quick recap of what's happening and incorporating that, whether it's a screen share or something like that. We also see a lot of customers just take snapshots and drop it into Slack. That's helpful. The other thing that I really like that I think we'll work to incorporate in the product, over the next 6 months is like an embedding option. So you could build a metric tile, click the top right corner where you get the tools, and get like an embedded URL. And so if you have like an intranet or something, some other website that all your employees are on, you can just embed that tile that stays live. So that's really interesting to us that we're looking at.
One other solution that's a little bit better than opening up an email and a PDF report, I'll be honest, I don't do that either, is you can get the share URL, but you can lock it down to your business IP address, so you can't get outside of your office. So they don't have to log in, but they can just click the link and view it. So yeah, talk to if your account manager, if you have any questions, or just chat into support, they can help you set that up too.
Hey, thank you. Ryan and I will be around, happy to field any more questions. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. So just a couple quick reminders as we head to lunch. We'll be back in here at 1:10 this afternoon. We are giving away the raffles at the keynotes later today, so be sure to stick around for that. And a quick reminder about the photo booth that's outside Primrose A. These are legit, high-quality, professional headshots if you're due for an update. Thanks so much.